What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got the very final new Digimon TCG cards from Ultimate Power that we need to be having a little bit of a look at. The news for Digimon, I mean, come on, it's so much news in so little time. But as I've said over and over again, if you're following this channel, if you're subscribed, if you're following along with me, I will show you everything you need to know about the Digimon TCG. All the rulings, all the news, all the new cards. I got your back, ladies and gentlemen. I got your back. But does Eden's Javelin? This is a 6-cost yellow option card that says you draw one, and one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 1,000 power for every one card in your hand until the end of this turn. And then as a security skill, it does the same thing. This is a really interesting one to me, because what you're basically doing here is building up a big hand size and then smashing. I mean, if you've got a 15-card hand, then you can lower somebody's power by 15,000. And then, you know, Omnimon's going down at that stage, which is kind of awesome. But having said that, really, the problem here is that in order for this card to be really effective, in order for this card to work really well, we are relying on having a very large hand size. Which largely means we're going to be relying on having a whole bunch of draw power. And frankly, this is just not something for which the Digimon TCG has been famous. I mean, one of the very best draw cards that came out of New Evolution was Gabumon. You play it and draw a card. One card. It's a good card, don't get me wrong, it sees a whole bunch of play, but you're not drawing 6-7 cards in a turn in Digimon like you might be drawing in some other card games, Pokemon. So it does make it very difficult to make a card like this really work for you. And if all we're trying to do is kind of lower power, we can do better. Symphony number 1 Polyphony lowers by 7,000 power as a 5-cost. They're pretty good cards. They're cheaper versions of essentially the same thing. And yes, there is a lower cap, but the big difference here is that you're not spending so much memory doing it, and you're not relying on having some huge hand. Because the fact of the matter is, right, if you've got a low hand size, not only is this new card more expensive, it's also worse. I mean, Heaven's Charm lowers power by 2,000, and if you really want to go all the way to the end, 7 Heavens lowers power by 10,000. Do you really think you're going to do better than that with Eden's Javelin? Eden's Javelin admittedly costs 1 less than 7 Heaven and draws you a card, and don't forget that drawing a card is awesome, but unless you've actually got a deck that can reliably keep a high hand size, which basically means drawing cards, which this game doesn't do very well, and keeping cards in your hand, which means deliberately lowering the amount of options you've got because you're not playing as many cards, it's not going to work as well. So, love the idea of it. In execution, not really a fan. But there are some green option cards we've not talked about yet. Maybe some of these can make me just that little bit happier. And why don't we start off with the wonderfully named Puppet Pummel, a 3-cost option card that rests one of your opponent's Digimon and gives one of your Digimon an extra 2,000 power until the end of the turn. Okay. I mean, to be fair, right, it is a green card, and what green cards do is rest one of your opponent's Digimon, or sometimes multiples of them. It's kind of their thing. I mean, we saw Flower Cannon back in New Evolution. That's seen a huge amount of play. That rested one of your opponent's Digimon. This also gives you an extra 2,000 power. But then again, Hornbuster gave you an extra 3,000 power. Essentially, this is the same cost as both Flower Cannon and Hornbuster, but it's not quite as good as them. but it's only one space in your deck and you don't have to draw into both of those cards at the same time. Essentially, what you're doing is mashing two cards together, and you're not getting the best version, but it's kind of an it will do scenario, which I'm not sure how much I like that, if I'm honest with you. It's fine, you know, it's a nice card. The extra power is good and the resting Digimon is good. It's very much what green decks do. But the fact of the matter is, there is a combination, there is a pair of cards that together will do this better. Having said that, do you want to play a pair of cards when you could just play one? And if you could just play one, are you willing to give up the 1,000 power? Because that is literally the decision you're being asked to make here. For me, I think a lot of the time it probably is going to be worth it, but there is a part of me that just feels a little bit like, why am I having a sacrifice here? Why can't I just have the better versions? I don't know. Convenience, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're talking about. We are talking about full-on, unabashed convenience. Suppose it could be worse. Speaking of which, we've got Cherry Bomb. Now, Cherry Bomb is clearly based around Cherrymon, and what we see is a 4-cost option card that rests all of your opponent's Digimon with 6,000 power or less. Now, this is expensive, but I think it's worth it. I really do think this is absolutely worth it. I mean, 4 cost still isn't that much. And what you're doing is basically, well, it's another one of those rookie rush things, right? If your opponent, or swarm decks as I like to call them, if your opponent is trying to win by playing lots and lots and lots of little cards, and basically going, you can't block them all, I'm going to take out all your security with tiny little cards, and yeah, fine, they're going to be taken out by the first security card they come across, but it doesn't matter because there's so many of them. This just comes along and you're like, now you're all rested. And we've got Lightning Paw that will lower 3 Digimon's power by 4,000 until end of turn, which will probably just flat out destroy 3 of them. But having said that, this can rest all of them. This can basically give your opponent a turn off. Except it can't. Because remember, what essentially happens is that your opponent at the beginning of their turn makes all of their Digimon active. So if you play a Cherry Bomb, or Cherry Blast, and you make all of your opponent's Digimon resting, and then you pass the turn to them, they're just gonna be made active at the beginning of their turn, and it's all gonna be for nothing. But what it really allows you to do is just attack any of your opponent's Digimon. And that's what we're doing here, right? That is what this can do. This gives you the option of attacking literally any Digimon on your opponent's side of the field. You put them all to rest, and then you smash. And in that regard, it's fine. I like it, but I don't like it like I like the card like Lightning Paw. Quick shout out to the security skill here. And this is very, very situational and luck-based, but if this comes out as a security card the first time your opponent attacks, it will rest all of your opponent's Digimon with 6,000 power or less, and could literally stop them attacking with all of their Digimon. As a security card, I love it, far more than as a regular card. And let's finish off with the very last card from Ultimate Power that we need to take a look at. It's Terra's Cluster. It's a 7-cost card, which is expensive, but you return one of your opponent's rested Digimon to the bottom of the deck, and that Digimon's evolution sources are discarded. Now, this is several things going on here. Firstly, getting rid of all of the evolution sources is good. That's going to really slow your opponent down. Secondly, we don't have a way to get a Digimon off the bottom of the deck right now. Nor do we have ways to shuffle our deck like we do in other games. So, putting a Digimon on the bottom of your opponent's deck is tantamount to just removing it from the game. It's gone and it ain't coming back. I mean, it will come back, admittedly, but it will come back as like the last card they draw. So, if the game isn't over, they need to win this turn, or else on their next turn they won't be able to draw a card like normal and they will deck out and lose the game. So it is tantamount to removing it from the game. And as a security skill, it just does that. Now, on the one hand, this is analogous to Gaia Force. Gaia Force is a card, and we mention Gaia Force a lot because Gaia Force is redonk. Gaia Force is the 8 cost that we saw in the starter decks for red that just deletes one of your opponent's Digimon. This does it as a 7 cost, but only for resting Digimon. And we know that green have a number of ways to rest Digimon. I mean, you can combine it with Flower Cannon, but at that stage it's basically a 9 cost Gaia Force, which we're not loving so much. But there are plenty of ways that green can rest Digimon, and when they do, this comes out and this looks good. We need an emergency, I can get rid of any of your Digimon card. This is it for green. And I'm kind of in favour of it. It's not as good as some of the other tee-hee-hee now that Digimon's gone card, but we still needed one, and this works rather nicely indeed. So that's all the cards from Ultimate Power, ladies and gentlemen. Every single new card we have now given a bit of time in a video. We have done a bit of analysis, and now it is over to you, lovely ladies and gentlemen, to tell me what you think about all of these. So go nuts in the comment section, but be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk Digimon and a bunch of other games, and please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun stuff. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.